Forever. Dog.
Is he gonna make it in time? Is he gonna? Oh, they did. They wouldn't have known if I hadn't said anything. Look at him sit down like he's been there the whole time. Wow, what timing? What classic timing? You know, I've had some rough nights at City Walk recently.
You live on the edge.
I do live on the edge. It's a battlefield. It's like Mad Max every time I go up in there. And sometimes I bring it upon myself, like when I took out my phone at Civil War, and a very nice gentleman who I've derided as a bit, but have nothing but respect for, leaned over very politely and said, "Can you turn off your phone?"
Famously.
And I said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry."
That probably soured you on Civil War, and that's why you gave it such a low rating.
Wrong. I can bifurcate my mind. Because here's what happened. The same thing happened at Back in Black, where I told the story on Double Threat this week. I did not tell it on Movies Baby, but on Double Threat, if you haven't heard it yet, go listen to it, about how I almost got in a physical altercation in the concession stand at City Walk.
Yeah.
Because people, the concessions weren't working, and they said, just like, wait a minute, we're trying to get the system back online, and suddenly people lost their minds. I never realized people depended so much on getting their Sour Patch Kids.
Talk about Mad Max.
Yeah, seriously.
Computers crash for 1 second, just anarchy.
Chaos.
Right.
Chaos. Mad Max is right.
Max is right.
As soon as the computers go down, it's over. We're done. We're done. And like you think like, oh, I'll be fine. It's not about you. It's about the other person. Like people lose, like 2 or 3 people are going to lose their minds, and then they're going to become Chris Hemsworth in The Wasteland.
Also, you're not going to be fine.
You're not.
Anyone who thinks that,
you're not
of course, everything you know and love will be gone.
Yeah.
You're not going to be okay.
Yeah. You might just have weirdly hit like a nice little emotional, personal moment when the computers go out. But like an hour later, you're going to be panicking. You're going to be like, so anyway.
A solar flare could turn out the entire internet in a GIF any second of our lives.
Why do we have kids? That's a problem.
Well, I know why I have a kid.
I mean,
I love it.
I know. I love it too.
It's the best thing.
I'm just like at this point, for me, I'm like, I deserve whatever happens. Even if I don't, I'm like, you can like draw and quarter me like they do in Furiosa. You know, at some level, I deserve it. At some sort of cosmic level.
Okay.
But now we have like innocent children we brought into this world.
Right. Well, they'll grow up and they won't be so innocent later, and they'll get their comeuppance then.
Here's the thing. We all know that Trump got indicted on 39 counts, whatever.
Or whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Mm-hmm. 4, I don't know.
So I go back in my office to take a victory lap. I turn on MSNBC. An MSNBC victory lap is the funniest, dumbest thing you've ever seen in your life. Where it's like they like are trying to be like they're trying to maintain their like journalistic integrity, but they're just like, did you guys see what happened?
It's so annoying. It's like ha 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 ha. You know Trump's gonna win the election.
Exactly.
Right?
No.
Like you guys just fucking.
We don't learn.
Idiots.
We don't learn. Like here's what I did. I was like, for a brief second, I was like, okay, this is a objective thing that has happened that is different than anything that's ever happened. Maybe now things are different. I go in and turn on MSNBC. They're taking the smuggest, dumbest victory lap I've ever seen. I turn on Fox News and I'm like, oh right, this is this what we thought happened didn't happen.
No, nothing
It didn't happen.
Today nothing happened.
And I'm so sorry to say that.
No,
but
I know
like,
it's a huge victory. It's American history. It's nothing. Nothing happened.
Don't do like you have no obligation to do this if you're if like life is hard and you're having a bad day and this and that. But if you have like a little window of like sort of mental health and you're feeling okay, turn on Fox News tonight and see what they're saying about the indictments. The most popular news cable show, a news cable network out there. It literally like what you think happened didn't happen. That's where we are now. It is like there are not just 2 different points of view. There are 2 different realities, and that's what it is. And that's why we're talking about Mad Max tonight and Garfield.
Apropos.
Speaking of 2 different realities,
Garfield movie.
The
Garfield movie.
Joe, this week on Movies, baby, I cannot wait. Look, it was supposed to be a big week in the movies, but apparently only Joe and I showed up. But we're going to talk about Furiosa, and we're going to talk about the Garfield movie, and we're getting ready for our big Weekend in Bergman season finale, which if you're on Patreon will happen later tonight, and if you're not, will happen on Monday for you.
Cannot wait.
Oh, it's going to be a lot of fun. Joe, are you ready?
Born ready.
Margo, roll that theme song. Oh, there it is. A little ditty for the end of the world. How optimistic we were in 1999. We just had songs like this on the radio.
I know.
I can't get enough movies, baby. I can't get enough movies, baby, but how about you? Do you have it bad too? I know that you do. Whenever one ends, it's like the death of a friend. I get to wishing that there were 2 more reels, and then a voice cries out, "Move, baby, you're in my seat, and you don't want to mess with Who the Philly Movie Freak." There he is.
I can't get enough movies, baby. I can't get enough movies, baby.
He's like the William Shatner of this thing.
Yes, it's true. Oh, I've got it bad too.
How bad?
Well, every night of the year, like a ghoul, I appear at every movie theater all over
Every single
town.
one.
Cut to black, roll credits. Whoa, baby, I'm lost in a fog. I need someone to talk to.
Hi.
Look, it's Georgia Movie Dog. I peeked. Sorry, Margot. Dog.
I can't get enough movies, baby.
I can't get enough movies, baby.
I can't get enough movies,
I
baby.
can't get enough movies.
Yeah!
Welcome to Movies, baby, the weekly show where we break down the hottest movie news, review the latest releases, shout out forgotten classics, and prophesy the future of Hollywood. I'm Joe Cilio, a.k.a. the Philly Movie Freak, and I'm joined by my co-host Brett Boehm, a.k.a. the Georgia Movie Dog.
Go Dogs! And speaking of prophesying the future, Joe, we got some new releases to get to. We got the box office to get to that we have to reckon with. But before we do that, I do not want to glide past the fact that my guy over here, the Philly Movie Freak, predicted the freaking Palme d'Or.
Thank you, Brett.
The hardest. You don't want to don't bet the harder to predict than the freaking Kentucky Derby. Who knows what those freaks in the judging panel are going to do this year? This guy predicted the Palme d'Or, and you know what? He was right. I haven't seen it, but I know it should go to Sean Baker's new movie. I don't even have to see the movie. I know it should go to Sean Baker's new movie. Joe, how'd you do it?
Well, thanks, Brett. Well, I just knew a couple things. One, the buzz for Anora seemed solid across the board. I didn't hear a lot of naysayers, okay? That was like the one sort of thing I was thinking. But more importantly, really, what I just knew that Greta Gerwig, she was going to give it to her guy, Sean. She was going to go for it's about a sex worker, but it's not really as political as the Iranian film or as that Chinese auteurs film. If it's the 5th time that guy should have won. I know she was just going to go a little punchy, a little American, a little politics enough, but not something like super hardcore.
Embedded politics.
And embedded
Implicit
politics. And it's, a contemporary of hers. I just had a feeling. The real reason is I bet it was just an amazing film. I cannot wait to see it. But also it just sort of thread the needle of checking some boxes while not being offensive, while also satisfying some work stuff for Greta and her team. That was my impression, and it was the only thing I've ever been right about in my entire life. So thank you for the victory lap.
I think you're right. It seems like a pick that was both aesthetically correct and
safe,
which is
weird,
professionally convenient.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's oh God, thank God Sean Baker made his masterpiece.
Yes,
we'll
right.
just go with that.
Thank God, exactly.
But I want to take a second though before we get into this week's new releases to just appreciate the fact that our fucking guy Sean Baker, the guy that we have loved every single movie he's made, the guy that we just can't get enough of. We had the Florida Project at number 2 or 3 on our A24 top 10. This is a guy you love. Tangerine.
It's in my 4 favorites on Letterboxd, Brett.
That's right. It's on. Check it out. Check it out. Okay.
5 favorite movies ever.
And look, a lot of people love Sean Baker. I just want to make sure that we're getting in now before the Sean Baker, because is Anora going to get Oscar nominated? Are we talking about Sean Baker Oscar nominations?
I have no idea. We'll see. The Oscars at this point in
Who
the
knows
year,
what they do?
It seems totally unknowable.
Yeah.
But it does seem like the main actress in this has gotten all the buzz necessary to move forward with a serious run, and Sean Baker movies aren't so far afield that they wouldn't get nominated for Best Picture.
Project.
We'll see what happens.
Florida Project might have got some kind of.
I feel like it had some. Willem
Dafoe
Dafoe
got nominated. Yeah.
So he's on the radar.
So I want to say then, before we get into too deep into this week's show. Let's just appreciate the fact that our dude
know.
Sean Baker, who less than 10 years ago was shooting a fucking masterpiece on his iPhone on Melrose Avenue here in Hollywood, Tangerine, follows it up with the Florida Project, which is my favorite Sean Baker movie, just an absolute devastating masterpiece.
Yes.
And then the simultaneously like hyped but also somehow underappreciated Red Rocket with Simon Rex in it, which I think is fantastic. This is my freaking guy. And I've held off. 2 weeks ago on Weekend at Bergman's, I said that Paul Thomas Anderson was the best living American filmmaker. I don't think that's wrong, but I like immediately was like, oh, but what about these 8 other people? You know, you have that moment. Because then the next week you gave that great impassioned defense of Sofia Coppola, and I was like, oh, Sophia's so good and it's so singular.
And we saw Harmony Korine's
Aggro
masterpiece.
Drift, and we said, oh my God, Harmony Korine's in there. But
It's
Joe,
good. It's good. A lot of good filmmakers.
Sean Baker is, if not the answer, he's tied for number 1 right now. He's tied for number 1.
He's the young guy that all the other guys should fear.
That's it.
You know what I mean?
That's it.
The other guy, everyone else is looking around like, oh,
Yes.
is this guy's made 4 bangers? We haven't seen Anora, assuming it's a banger. It just won the literal Palme d'Or. This guy made 4 bangers.
Is it have we not seen his masterpiece yet? That's crazy.
Right.
Anora might be his masterpiece. We haven't I can't wait. I cannot wait for Anora. But to me, this guy, like, no one does.
Like, dude, Sean Baker's gonna have. I'm so sorry. He'll make 10 to 20 more movies in our lifetime,
and for nothing, for dirt cheap. Studios, wake the fuck up.
He made Tangerine on a micro budget.
Make sure this guy keeps making movies as frequently as he wants to make them, because it's not going to cost anything. You're going to get all the fucking awards in the book, and you're going to get credibility, and it's not going to cost you a dime.
Yeah.
Sean Baker is the truth. Yeah. He answers the question, and with all due respect to Harmony Korine, because last week we said Aggro Drift was the best movie of the year, and it is until we see Anora. Sean Baker answers the question, what if Harmony Korine had a heart? What if Harmony Korine listened to his actors? What if Harmony Korine sort of tried to work his way towards accessibility, but while still maintaining his authenticity? Sean Baker, to me, is just that perfect fucking middle. He's like Harmony Korine and Paul Thomas Anderson in one to me. It's that level of, like, he gets these incredible performances out of his actors. He's doing something that is, like, emotionally resonant, but he still has that fucking punk ethos that Harmony Korine has, and it is just creates the best fucking experience in cinema you could possibly have. I love his locations. When I found out that Red Rocket was happening in League City, Texas, like where all the fucking that crazy like oil industry it's like a beach town, but like it's Texas City. Sorry, Texas City. Amy knows, my wife knows a lot better than I do, but like it's that combination of like just dystopian factories with like Texas Gulf Coast, and it's so deeply American you can't even like believe it. And then to combine that with the Florida Project, like outside of Orlando, like the part of Orlando that is like, you know, not even working class, is like aspiring to working class, but is like in the shadow of Disney. This guy is just making like the most like uniquely deeply American movies that have no hint of like trying to be American movies. It's just that it's just like they're deeply authentically American in the best way possible, and they just speak to such a just core experience for me, and I just love everyone. I can't wait for Anora.
Amazing. And Sean tells specific stories that don't get told by anybody else. Like you just said, like the impoverished, those on that society has dismissed, you know, sex workers and people on welfare and things like that. And he makes the most passionate, beautiful films about these people. And about his characters, and cares so much about them. I love the way he casts. He's the only director, or he's one of the only directors where still feels exciting, dangerous, surprising. I love everything that he does, and he's a real cinephile. A lot of people mentioned this week on X, which I call Twitter, on Twitter.
So brave.
That you know, Sean is on Letterboxd and he posts, and he's on Twitter and he's posting about movies and stuff. And around Los Angeles, he's always going to the movie theaters. You can just see him all around town. The man loves movies, and you can tell because all of his movies are brilliant. Like even when Tangerine, he made the movie in 3 weeks on 3 iPhone 5s, and it looks like that. But also he's pulling inspiration from Sergio Leone. It's amazing to watch the man work.
I watched Tangerine on like Amy and I did, it was like a sort of like a soft double date with this other couple that she was like, it was like a colleague of hers. And it was like, oh, the two couples are going to get together and let's like have dinner and watch at somebody's house and watch a movie. Right. And we watched Tangerine. I don't know how we picked that. I think it was, I know I'd been wanting to see it, but I don't think I like pushed it. Somehow it just ended up, we watched Tangerine, but like on a double date. And I was just sitting there and everyone was like trying to, it was like a, it was like double date vibe. So everyone like when like, there's like the blowjob in the car wash, there was a little bit of like so crazy. This is weird. I was just sitting there getting like crushed to death by this movie. Just like I'm in a fucking trash compactor. I was like, I cannot believe this is like the purest movie I've seen in fucking 10 years. And I'm watching it on this sort of like casual double date. And I'm the only one. Amy felt the exact same way. But it was just like the other couple was trying to sort of like cut the tension. I was like, stop cutting the tension. Let the tension exist. Stop fucking cutting the tension.
Well, congratulations, Sean.
You did.
We here love you. If you ever want to be a guest on Movies Baby 5 Wise, honestly,
I think he would. I think he would.
That would be the greatest day of my life.
Sean, listen to us.
Sean, come over and hang out and talk about movies with us.
Come hang out and talk movies.
Sean, please come over and hang out. We got a Keurig. We can do coffee.
Sean, we have a Keurig. Sean.
We have a Keurig. We have some Kind bars, and we have some Sun Chips, and we would love for you to be our guest. Congrats.
Patty cake. Baker is the man. Bake these movies as fast as you can, Sean. I feel like he's not coming now.
He's not going to come.
All right. Let's talk about Margot. Can we show me the money, Margot? Where
how's Hollywood?
We've talked about the art. Let's look at the money. What was the box office like this week? Oh my God. What a disaster.
Womp, womp. Oh, it's worse
terrible news.
So a lot of chatter this week.
This is Memorial Day weekend. It's supposed to be a big weekend.
Furiosa and the Garfield movie and Sight, which was the Christian one. Those were the 3 movies that came out this week. Memorial Day weekend traditionally opens the summer box office or whatever, is like the first humongous weekend for the summer box office. And apparently since 1995, when Casper came out, this is the worst performing Memorial Day weekend in 22
decades. Literally decades.
In 22 decades.
I thought the movies were back, Joe. That was sort of the premise of us doing this. They might not be back.
I think
Barbenheimer might have been some sort of like death rattle, like in the midst of an otherwise uninterrupted decline.
No, I think. Let me read a couple things here. First of all, some of the reasons that this has happened. So just to say it, Furiosa won the week, and it looks barely with $26 million domestic. Garfield
it did 30 international, but that's nowhere close to its budget.
It was an $180 to $200 million budget.
Dune 2 budget.
It's 15% of the GDP of Australia they put towards this thing, but it couldn't get the job done. Fury Road opened to 45 million.
Yep.
Furiosa with a really rough looking 26, and Garfield too close to call here. I mean, this is a Gore v. Bush close here, folks. 24 million taking second place, the Garfield movie.
But that way underperformed too. Both of these movies way underperformed.
Because Super Mario Brothers, the last time Chris Pratt offended
voicing
Italian Americans,
franchise, right? Sure.
They made $1 jillion.
It was the second biggest movie in the box office last year.
Not that what if that was what I thought the reason it did well was Chris Pratt voiced Mario. It's because Mario's huge. I get that, but still, it's a huge degree difference. 24 million opening.
Massive
weekend
something
Memorial
happened
Day.
Here. Joe, what happened? I have my take.
Here's some of the things that like people are saying contributed to this. Streaming services offer more choices at home. Audiences.
Really quick on that. Hey, Ted Sarandos, if you're watching, and I know that you aren't, shut the fuck up.
Whoa!
Shut the fuck up.
Whoa!
Why are you talking? Shut the fuck up. Just go do a Scrooge McDuck dive into all your money and leave the rest of us alone, you fucker. Did you see last week he talked about, if Barbie and Oppenheimer, if they had been on Netflix, they would have been just as good. Shut the fuck up. I don't know if this is having an influence on anything. I don't know if this is
You don't know if he is having an influence on things.
Then shut the fuck up, Ted.
Ted is having an influence.
We're going to talk later about how fun these two movies were. I had a blast. This is the most fun I've had at the movies since forever.
Yeah,
I liked both these movies. They both were great in theaters.
Yes.
A supremely better experience than I would have had at home. Shut the fuck up, Ted.
Audiences expect a quick transition to VOD, right? And they're shortening that time. I just read that, I don't have the stat in front of me, but what was a couple weeks ago or months ago, an 80-day release period between theatrical distribution and streaming, which is already smaller than DVDs was. Now it's down to 62 days or something like that in between theatrical and streaming. So why would anybody, I know why, because the screen's big and we love going to the movies, but being
you still have to get out of your house, you got to buy the tickets,
the whole kit and caboodle, right? So they're like, I'll just watch Garfield. Why would I take my kid? I can just put him in front of the TV here and watch Garfield in 3 weeks when it's on my TV. Yeah. People said that. People said that tickets are too expensive. Okay, maybe, or for sure
get
here
the
and
AMC
there, whatever.
Pass at $20 a month.
I know, or it's like the food's too expensive. Don't buy food.
I
don't know.
You can sneak in a rotisserie chicken. They don't check your bag at the movie
you can
theater.
sneak in.
You can do whatever you want.
Now it's literally it is a free for all in there,
guys.
But
it's better now because they're
now.
so desperate for people to come to the movies. You can do whatever you want.
Fucking smoke a cigar.
You probably could. You could literally smoke a cigar.
You could get halfway through the cigar before somebody taps you on the shoulder.
Before someone
please,
politely asks you,
can you put it out?
Yes,
they wouldn't even kick you out.
No.
But Brett, this one's actually interesting, and I kind of want to. The last thing people are saying is high budgets raise the bar for box office success. And a guy who I think is your guy, I'm a fan of this critic. Bilge, Beery over at Vulture, the film critic. Bilge does good work. Bill's a smart fellow. He wrote this. So this is from Bilge talking about this flop in Vulture. He said, honestly, most of us shouldn't care. The important thing about Furiosa is that it exists, mad and uncompromising. All right, thanks, jerk off.
Blah,
all right, so
blah,
all right.
blah. But we're not going to get another one now. We're not going to. The franchise is dead.
So what if it flopped? Okay, but in order for the American movie industry to become saner and more sustainable, it has to give up on the idea that the only thing that matters is opening weekends, and the only thing that can make money are the biggest of movies. An expensive oddity like Furiosa won't be placed in the suddenly untenable position of having to save an entire industry. I kind of like what he's saying there. What he's sort of suggesting, Brett, is what we kind of always talk about, or what he's driving towards is make cheaper movies that have success, that have the opportunity to succeed in this new marketplace where movies aren't opening for $100 million. On the other hand, I, of course, want George Miller to get $200 million from the government to make Mad Max 5. I want that. It happened. But now, sort of like Bill just saying, blaming Furiosa, or Furiosa being the poster child for why we can't have big movies anymore.
No.
Not fair, not cool at all.
Fall Guy should be the poster child.
Right.
I think, look, I agree with that in general. We've talked about it as long as we've been doing movies, babe. We talked about what Cord Jefferson said at the Oscars. Exactly correct. That the studios and next week I think we have a little sort of break from the big movies coming out. We're going to look at some indies. Next week we should look at sort of like take an assessment of the year's worldwide box office. What does it say about the future of the movies? And what we're going to find out is that movies like Challengers, Civil War, etc., small budget movies with really coherent, smart marketing campaigns did incredibly well this year. And the bigger budget movies, minus, except for Dune 2 and King Kong vs. Godzilla, did not do well. I would say, though, that movies have to be, studios have to be selective about the movies that they're spending money on. Their overall strategy should be to do a lot of $30 million movies, because those are the ones that are going to make the money, and they don't stand to get, because like Mad Max is that's like a devastating loss of money. People are going to lose like tens of bordering on $100 million on this movie. They're going to lose, whereas
Australia's part of Japan now. They have to secede.
This is like devastating.
Yeah, right.
But where I would push back on that is that there are people that deserve a big budget, and those people are not the guy who directed Fall Guy, David Leitch. He did John Wick and Atomic Blonde for very little money, and they were better than Fall Guy. George Miller deserves all the fucking money. He knows what to do with it. There was not a second of Furiosa that I regretted how expensive it was. Every second. No. He is turning money into cinema. He's like, money into cinema is a direct line with him. Whereas like a David Leitch, money is going into sort of like trailer scenes for Comic-Con, and it's taking this weird route, whereas like George Miller knows how to use money. I am ashamed that he's not going to get to make any more movies of this big of a budget. anymore.
Well,
because he's not.
Never say never, but also you're probably right.
He's not.
And
Wasteland ain't happening.
But like, how many? But I agree with you. I want great directors to have that can do it, to have large budgets. But as like a rule of thumb moving forward, I think that we should give more directors less money to make more movies.
As a general rule, you're right.
As a general rule, but because how many George Millers do we have? Brett?
None.
We have
none.
Well,
none.
I don't look.
Literally, like
the other people that can bring home the
Tarantino.
bacon. We have fucking James Cameron, Peter Jackson,
But no,
George Miller.
But
right?
George Miller to me is it's truly a singular oddity in the way that Tarantino is.
But
an
it's
oddity
somebody that can
because
use a budget.
he's doing exploitation cinema at like high level studio budget. You know, like there's nobody like George Miller, really. Even
No.
Tarantino is not quite the same.
No.
George Miller is
George
the
Miller is
most
so singular.
maybe
in
the
his-
most singular filmmaker out there.
He's
He
just
is
his, like, to be really quick and dirty about it, his capacity to shoot moving action sequences
Shocking.
in cars is amazing.
Shocking.
Period. You know what I mean? It
Shocking
basically
how good
boils
he
down
is.
to that. And there's a lot more that he does well that other people do well, but as a singular, like only one man can do it thing, when it comes to some sort of car chase-esque,
which is the
scene,
oldest
he
trick
is
in the
guy.
book, and he makes you think you've never seen a car chase before.
Have you ever seen anything like these
All
ones
right.
though?
Here's what I'm going to say. Here's what I'm going to predict, and it's a depressing prediction, but here's what's going to happen for the summer and the rest of the year is we are in for pretty much all of the big tentpole movies bombing. Bad Boys Ride or
7,
Die is going to
flop.
bomb. Financially, I'm gonna try to have fun. I hope it's good, but it's gonna bomb financially.
Yeah.
Like, there's like a lot of the franchise movies, the big studio movies, are gonna bomb this year because Furiosa had a great marketing campaign, a great trailer. Even though it was like several years removed from Fury Road, it's
Whatever.
everybody fucking love Fury Road,
And that was years removed from Thunderdome.
exactly. It should have done a lot better, and the fact that it like catastrophically bombed is not a good sign. The one big studio tentpole movie that's going to do well this summer is going to be Deadpool versus Wolverine, and then that is going to lead to my nightmare, which is like Marvel is back. Marvel got a second wind, and then Marvel is going to go off on some new fucking Kevin Feige, fucking corporate fever dream of, just military industrial complex corporate hegemony shit disguised as cinema. So I think Deadpool vs. Wolverine is gonna be the only studio movie that does really well, and then we're gonna get like a return of Marvel. That's my prediction. And maybe it's like a return. Maybe it's like now it's like R-rated Marvel, and we're getting all Deadpool movies. But like, I don't fucking give a shit.
The only thing that ever makes money anymore is Deadpool movies.
What do I care about? Do we honestly care about the Ryan Reynolds like meta universe? It's like an Abercrombie and Fitch model Red Baudrillard. It's like the worst version of fucking meta I've ever seen in my life. It's so fucking asinine and dumb. It's like the meta-ness that a of a fucking like Buffalo Wild Wings commercial. It's not like it is what is the opposite of pure cinema? Deadpool. That's what the opposite of pure cinema is. It's like it's disguised as like high cinema trickery, and but at its heart it is this like company man bullshit. It is this let me save Marvel. He's doing it all like it's like what if avant-garde cinema was used to save corporate cinema. That's the idea of Deadpool.
Yes.
What a fucking waste.
Here's why I know you're right about Deadpool and Wolverine saving the summer box office. I saw Furiosa the Friday it came out in a packed theater. Before the show, they played the turn your cell phones off video, but it was a specially branded one hosted by Deadpool and Wolverine. Brett, did you see this?
I saw that.
My audience lost their shit at this.
Yeah, we're done.
From joke one
We're done.
to the end of the bit.
We're cooked.
Every single joke got a laugh, a big laugh. And then when the fucking thing was over, Brett, it led to a round of applause for the turn off the cell phones thing. I want you to know I like your speech. I think it's smart and savvy. You are screaming into the void. Do you know that?
No.
Okay, you're into the void.
But the premise of that speech is that I'm speaking futility.
That's
the
right.
premise of the speech is that the only summer movie that's gonna make money is a fucking Marvel movie, and then Marvel is back, and then and Barbenheimer never happened. That's what's going to happen this year. So get ready for it, everybody.
I agree with
Buckle
you.
up.
Deadpool and Wolverine is going to be a big hit. It's going to make it's going to open to $80 million or something that we don't, something really good. But I don't. Marvel coming back is a tall order because
you think Deadpool's the only thing they have left.
Deadpool and Wolverine 2, yes, that'll do well. But yeah, what else? I don't know if Marvel will make a comeback because we just learned you make a $200 million movie these days, they're not making Endgame. You know what I mean?
You know who they're talking to behind the scenes?
Who?
I guarantee they want Krasinski to do a Marvel movie.
Well, isn't he in Fantastic Four?
That's right.
He's Mr. Fantastic.
But he's not directing it, though.
No.
Okay.
Yet.
He's doing the Orson Welles where he's like, I directed it. I directed Fantastic Four.
He's our Orson Welles. Yeah.
I saw and I'm gonna tiptoe around this because I don't like involving children into things.
Never mind. Don't spill.
Well, no, but there was a clip going around from the If red carpet.
Yeah,
where Bradley Cooper, you see where Bradley Cooper brought his kid and he's introducing his kid to John Krasinski.
Yeah.
And John Krasinski, unprompted, I rewound this 3 times. The kid does not ask who are you or what did you do? Unprompted, John Krasinski goes, "Hi, I'm I did on If what your dad did on Maestro." Did you see this clip?
Yeah.
And I was like, all of you, kid, go back to your mom who raises you, and then everybody else gets swept into the ocean.
Cooper's stomach must have dropped into his ass. Honestly, Bradley Cooper is Kurosawa next to Krasinski. That is so funny. Well,
I'm like your dad on. I'm to If what your dad is to Maestro.
I'm to If what Fritz Lang is to M. Okay.
It's so funny the movies we didn't get to talk about. Can you imagine we'd started this a year ago and we had a Maestro episode of this? Maybe we should do episodes that from the past where we just do Maestro so it just came out.
Yeah, we do an episode. We put on a big afro and do 1974 Memorial Day weekend. I love it. That's a great idea.
All right. Let's talk about Let's talk about Furiosa.
Yeah, of course. Let's talk about it. Brett, you were sounding like you had a good time at the movies.
I had a great time at both these movies. I'm going to spoil that. I'll tell you specifically.
Well, sorry, Brett, I hate to interrupt. I just got to throw it out there. This isn't just another review, folks. Furiosa was one of my picks in the 2024 movie draft. So, earlier at the beginning of the year, Brett and I each got to pick 5 movies that were coming out this year that we wanted on our fantasy movie draft team. Brett and I would review each of them out of 5 stars. We'd be honest. We'd add them up, and whoever gets the most point at the end of the year, honey, you win the movie draft.
So right now, I'm up 6 by a score of 16-6, but I've had 2 movies reviewed. You've only had 1 movie reviewed.
That's right, Brett. Your first film was Monkey Man, which got an insanely high 9.5, but we loved Monkey Man. And then
it's picking Mookie Betts in fantasy baseball.
That's
baby.
right. And you also had I Saw the TV Glow, which got a respectable but ultimately rude 6.5.
Yes, rude but honest.
Yeah, and then. For me, the only one that we watched so far was Civil War, which has 6 points. Brett
4 of those were you put your points.
Brett gave it. Yeah, I liked it. Brett didn't. It's just we're honest. We famously had a big fight.
We're honest,
but now we're cool again. It's fine.
Yes.
But Furiosa is my second movie here, Brett. So I have an opportunity to catch up to you. Maybe.
Here's what I'm gonna say. Okay, let me start.
If we get 2 5s, then we're tied.
I think you're gonna have a comeback today. If you felt about Furiosa the way that I did, which is that I fucking loved it.
Yep.
And before I saw Furiosa, last night I saw Furiosa. This is still fresh in my mind because I wanted to go. I went back and watched all the Mad Max movies over the past week.
Nice.
Right. So that's Mad Max, that's Road Warrior, Beyond the Thunderdome, Fury Road, and then Furiosa. I'm gonna say you would be hard pressed in the history of filmmaking, all the great directors and all the great visual aesthetics and all the original approaches. You would be hard pressed to find someone with a better cinematic imagination than George Miller. I mean, this guy just thinks in cinema. He is. I mean, starting with Mad Max. Good God, just the deep-seated originality without ever sliding into affectation that he does, because he always maintains the action. He knows this balance, whereas if I keep the action high, I can keep the imagination high without slipping into sort of affectation or self-indulgence or just sort of, sort of like twee silliness or whatever, right? If I keep the fucking action high and the energy high and people are just pumping on adrenaline so hard, I can also keep the imagination high, which is what keeps him on the other side from sliding into just sort of like douchiness. He never slides into sort of like action movie trope douchiness. It hits this sublime level of just like weird action, and it is so intoxicating, and it is just pure cinema. There's a scene in the very first Mad Max that was so simple but just like threw me for a loop, where the movie starts off with this incredible car chase sequence. He knows in every movie he ever does, he goes, I'm not gonna like slow roll it. I'm gonna start every movie I ever make with like a 20-minute action sequence.
Genius.
I
love this guy.
You're gonna be gasping for breath by the first line of dialogue, before the first like exchange happens, before you know a character's name. You're gonna be gasping for breath. It's so genius. There's a scene in the first Mad Max where there's this incredible car chase. We don't really know who anybody is, but we sort of and we don't even, you can already tell there's not really good guys, bad guys. There's just sort of chaos and action and pursuit. And it's so good and compelling and violent and punk and interesting. And then it cuts to our main character, Max Rockatansky, at home with his baby. And we're like, nice little moment to breathe. Oh, Max is a family man. He has a baby. Okay, this is going to be our protagonist. And then you hear this saxophone music build in the background. And it feels like it's the score. It feels like it's at the level of scoring, right? I'm hearing non-diegetic sound. I'm hearing sort of cinema sound. But then it cuts to his wife, and she is playing a giant fucking alto sax, and it is one of the most amazing cuts I've ever seen in a movie.
And from there, you were sold.
I was already sold. After that,
I'm on board, George.
Sold and then some. Just like you have me. I'm in your hands now. The person that would think to do that after a big car chase, it's just such an imaginative, easy cheap move that is better than anything money could buy. It's like, it's just such a, and that's what we talk about when we talk about pure cinema. It's just like, it doesn't cost anything. It can cost something, like in Furiosa, but it also, if you don't have the imagination, it's never going to happen. And this guy is just pure cinema. And I think his most important legacy, and I can't believe he's still doing it. It sucks that he might not be able to do it anymore after Furiosa. But the thing that he was able to do with the Mad Max trilogy, as that sort of broke into mainstream cinema, broke internationally into America, etc. And then with Thunder Road and with Furiosa, Thunder Road, what am I saying?
Beyond Thunderdome.
Fury Road, thank you. Yeah, Beyond the Thunderdome. Yeah, I'm getting my Springsteen mixed in there. But with Fury Road and with Furiosa, he brought this Ozploitation aesthetic into the mainstream, which is such a wonderful, weird chapter of cinema that should only exist at like New Beverly midnight screenings. This is Australian exploitation cinema from the 70s. Mad Max is probably the most enduring legacy of it. But you have like the incredible movie Wake in Fright, which is bizarrely directed by Ted Kotcheff, who also directed Weekend at Bernie's. His legacy is Weekend at Bernie's and the greatest Ozploitation film ever, Wake in Fright. Amazing director. But it's just this, it's exploitation cinema. It's violent and extreme.
Dead Alive.
And Dead Alive, thank you. And Razorback, about a killer hog. But it brought that Ozploitation aesthetic, and it sort of ensured that it would last beyond its moment, right? The fact that we're still getting Mad Max movies means we're still getting Ozploitation sort of vibes into the 21st century, which is amazing. Otherwise, it would just be this sort of, moment in time in the 70s. So I love that he sort of ensured that aesthetic would last and would endure. I was sitting there pre-show, Joe, and I felt like I didn't think I was about to watch a movie. I haven't felt this sort of like physical excitement for a long time. I was sitting there in the movies. I started, as soon as you hear the like engine rev over the Warner Brothers logo, I'm just sitting up in my seat. And it's like they just lowered the bar on a roller coaster. I'm like, I'm not about to watch a movie. I'm about to have a physical experience, like a physical experience in a movie theater. And sure enough, this guy opens with just a fucking just like 100-mile-an-hour, 20-minute action sequence. It's so fucking good. He gives you like a second to breathe,
So
builds
good.
character so seamlessly.
The one with Furiosa's mother chasing
Furiosa
after
mother's
her
chase-
captors.
exactly.
That scene is amazing. It's
Phenomenal,
so cool,
phenomenal,
dude.
phenomenal. He gives you a second to breathe. He understands how to use the dystopian world to his effect, which is that, hey, good news. In the dystopian future, everyone is reduced to their basic instincts. So I only need like 2 lines to build character. We're not living in the world of like, like talkative nuance. We're living in a world of survival. And so I can create this like character dynamic in 2 fucking lines, right? Like
right.
Mother Bear lost her cub. That's it. Done. And now Mother Bear is
It's
on
like
a fucking
Westerns.
motorcycle and she's coming after your ass. He is so good at just quick beat character dynamics and then back to the long action. Because he also knows the most fundamental rule of cinema going back to the earliest days, which is that action is character. You can build character through action, not just through dialogue.
And that's really where
Yes.
his genius
That's it.
is made manifest. Because Brett, you're 100% right. He does establish character so quickly and so well, but that's not to suggest that they're somehow shallow. These
Not at all.
are
Not
incredibly
remotely.
deep characters. Furiosa might say 6 lines in this movie, but I mean, I went on an entire arc journey with the character, because Miller's so good at communicating with his camera and with his scripts. And then Anya Taylor-Joy and some of her other cast members specifically Anya, she can really act the fuck out of her eyes, and she tells many stories with her eyes.
And how about Hemsworth?
Yeah, okay, so what'd you think of Hemsworth?
I thought he was great.
He was so fun.
He's been waiting for this role.
He had fun.
He's, as you know from the trailer, he's the bad guy, and he is bad. He's bad, but he is the perfect kind of bad guy where he has his own personal motivation. That he knows he's bad, but he's rationalized his badness as just part of the inherent badness of the world. I'm not bad relative to the world. I am in his mind, I'm a perfectly normal person relative to the world I live in, because he lost his own family, et cetera, et cetera. But then the existence of Furiosa and her mom and other characters prove that no, you don't have to sort of become that corrupted just because the world is that corrupted. But he is a relatable, he's a relatable bad guy, and he's also like eloquent. He's doing that thing where it's like in the earlier Mad Maxes of just these sort of eloquent, almost Shakespearean speeches, this very sort of almost affected, flowery dialogue. But Hemsworth is crushing.
Roman presentation.
Here's what I want to see. Quick, like, I know, it might not fit in the schedule, it might not fit in the lifestyle. Hemsworth can do like Shakespeare in the Park, and I would go in a second. I love
that.
He can crush a monologue.
I love that.
He can crush like a flowery monologue, and it feels like vital and fucking. He's like,
have him do Richard III.
Dude, I would
Hemsworth.
Hemsworth. Think
call
about
us.
it, baby. Think about it, baby.
Do Shakespeare. I love that.
Think
for
about
Hemsworth.
it.
He'd be so good.
I would love that.
Ooh.
I don't think we watching this movie, I was like, I don't think we know Hemsworth. I was like, oh, Hemsworth is different than I thought he was. Hemsworth has hidden potential.
It's good. Well, this is like an Aussie reclamation project.
That's
George
it.
was like,
That's
"Come,
it.
give me my guy, and let me
Yes.
show you what you guys have here."
It's
a fun actor who's talented.
It's Colin Farrell.
Has
It's Colin
presence,
Farrell.
right.
It's like when Colin Farrell did his like Hollywood trajectory, right?
Mhm.
And kind of was like losing himself. And then he does In Bruges, and just the simple fact of getting to do his natural like accent,
Rhythms and-
he was in his natural rhythms, he was just in his fucking pocket again,
Mhm.
and then he could crush. Hemsworth, it feels like in this movie is just he found his gear. I would love to
when
see
he
Hemsworth
got the
stay in
call,
this gear.
when he got the call, can
Yes.
you imagine how happy he must have been? Like, you want me to be in the Fury Road sequel? I got to play the
And
bad
I'm the
guy.
bad guy?
And then he reads the script and it's like, oh, the bad guy's so funny.
Yes.
Oh, this is awesome. Thank God. Yeah, I really liked Hemsworth too. I loved the casting and I thought he did great. And I loved that Hemsworth. Okay, can I?
Please.
My favorite thing
Preach.
about Mad Max movies is the world building. Finally, a fantasy story or something that I can get behind the world building. I don't know what it is. I do know what it is. It's the meticulous care taken to every single piece of prop, costume, art direction in these movies is so amazing to see. Everything in the movie is like used parts from the previous worlds, reclaimed and reused, and every little bit is so cool and considered. I love the world that he fleshes out. I love the characters. I love the locations, and it's really fun to watch somebody sort of create their, I don't know, Lord of the Rings on the fly in a movie so successfully without any sort of source text, and he just gets to create. I love how Furiosa built off a lot of the lore elements or little pieces that we got to pick up on in Fury Road, but I don't say these kinds of sentences a lot, but like, it was so fun to learn how all this stuff happened. I was like, oh, that's how Furiosa lost her arm in the most badass way humanly possible.
The
Cool.
best way.
Oh, that's how Immortan Joe did the women and great. I loved it. I didn't know I was such a fucking fanboy of Mad Max until I'm watching Furiosa. Like, oh, I love Mad Max.
Because here's the thing.
Yeah.
We complain about in a lot of movies today, we complain about an excessive reliance on SFX. We complain about an excessive reliance on lore. But the thing is, if you check the 5 essential boxes for making a movie, you can do lore. You can do SFX. The thing with George Miller is he checks the essential boxes. He checks character, storytelling, coherent, like tight action, and then you can do whatever you want, because nobody does action sequences better than this guy, because it's not about just being bludgeoned to death by special effects. It's about the oldest old school camera techniques and editing techniques combined with current advances in special effects and a $160 million budget that he got. But he doesn't exchange innovation for the budget. He lets the budget augment his natural sort of innovativeness with the camera.
That's actually true. That's actually like true for him. I read an interview where he was talking about his filmography and how he always has to make sure the story is good, but he's excited by these different technologies. Like when the first time he saw Gollum and someone told him what mocap was, he literally said, "Oh my gosh, I know exactly now. I can tell the Happy Feet story finally."
Exactly.
You know, it's stuff like that. Like he is
story
one of these
story
first, and then
vision first.
The tech comes, and then he knows how to utilize it because he is excited about the worlds he's building, the characters he's building, and I love that about George. Brett, can I just prattle? I have to prattle off a couple favorite things. Favorite things from Furiosa. Number 1, Chris Hemsworth chariot of bikes.
His chariot of bikes.
Come on.
All right, Chris Hemsworth
has Ben-Hur chariot.
A like old school Ben-Hur chariot that's just 3 motorcycles tied together. I literally don't understand what advantage it gives him over just like a big
badass
bike, except that it looks so cool. And everybody else is like riding in on a bike, and he rides in on a chariot of 3 bikes, and it's the coolest thing you've ever seen.
Okay, number 2, History Man. Love it. There's like the oldest man in the world, and he is tattooed and written on his clothes like the history of the world in tiny texts. And you see him in that one scene. You walk into a tent and he's teaching like a group of people about, you know, how bike fits together, and he's Chris Hemsworth, number 1 guy. I love History Man.
He has an encyclopedia tattooed on his body. It's the only thing that remains of like old human
world.
Civilization, and he has to use like a magnifying glass to look at.
It was only 45 years ago, but this guy is going absolutely ham with the history of world all over his body, which was so cool.
I loved History Man.
Okay, I mentioned how I love Furiosa's arm got cut off. That was so cool. I loved Chris Hemsworth in his team, the guy all in black with the big horns with the swamp like fan bike.
He has the Agro Drift helmet on.
Oh, I loved that guy. I love going to Bullet Town. I love the 3 towns: Gas Town, Bullet Town, and like Water Town.
Miller is so smart.
I love that.
Is so smart because he knows that like dumb is smart.
Right.
He knows like don't get sort of fanciful.
Don't be cute.
We're not trying to like George Miller's never heard of Funko Pops. George Miller is like giving you the dumbest, hardest like version of sci-fi. The towns are Bullet Town and Gas Town. It's the best thing you've ever heard. Cool. But then he'll combine that with like he knows when to play it dumb and then when to play it smart. He's so good at riding those waves. It's amazing. And you get both, and that's the most exhilarating experience. Is like you get intelligence without affectation and you get stupidity with high vision. It's the best.
Well said.
It's the absolute best.
That was it. I couldn't sleep at night if I just didn't shout out History Man.
History Man.
And and the cool chariot bike. Oh, and I love last one was when Immortan Joe proves to Chris Hemsworth that his guys will never betray him by sending the one to his death.
Yes.
And,
Yep.
that was so
Amazing.
cool.
Amazing.
Anyway, the movie's very cool. Has a ton of, it is like Brett said, endlessly creative, endlessly cool stuff, endlessly cinematic. And it was great. Now, Brett, I do
Yes.
I think the big question on everybody's mind, of course, is did you like it more than Fury Road?
I did like it more than Fury Road. It had
Why?
It had, well, you know what, Joe? I'm breaking one of my cardinal rules, which is you know how much I despise text in movies.
I was going to
Right?
say,
You know how much
when I saw the
despise-
text, I was like, uh-oh.
You're like, Brett's not gonna like
I
this
did
because
think
he
that.
does chapters. He does 4 chapters, but the reason it worked for me, maybe for the first time ever, and the reason that I didn't like hate it. Like initially I was like, oh, fucking chapters. Here we go. The reason I didn't despise it is because I realized why I hate excessive text in movies is because it is people trying to turn a visual aesthetic into a textual, like a visual medium into a textual medium because of a lack of like visual ideas. And so they're trying, and so like text is always easier to sort of control because I can just tell you what I'm saying, right? And I don't have to express what I'm saying visually. Whereas to me, that is not what George Miller was doing. George Miller is still expressing a fundamentally like he is working within a visual medium and he's still doing everything visually, but he wanted this within the Mad Max universe. It's literally in the title there, a Mad Max Saga. This is his like sort of, this was more of like an ancient Homeric epic version of the Mad Max universe. It's like a song that gets repeated over and over again. It's a saga. It is. So the chapters to me were playing into him doing like a sort of myth, like a folkloric sort of version of the Mad Max world.
Totally.
And without at all compromising, the visual medium.
And the end confirms that.
Exactly.
When they talk about how Furiosa killed Dementis
Yes.
and how myth gets incorporated into like history.
So it's intentional.
And of course it was intentional.
So that's why I normally don't like text, is because it feels like you've run out of ideas. And so you're just resorting to text in order to like, because you don't think the audience is like getting it or something. Whereas like here it felt very intentional, very in the world of the project, and I had no problem with it. So I'm gonna give really quick because we got to move on. I'm gonna give Furiosa a 4.5 out of 5. This was a phenomenal fucking movie. Maybe not quite perfect. I don't even know.
I know.
I guess,
or
like,
I think I know.
I hate to say it, but like, as good, she was great. Anya Taylor-Joy was like a tad flat at times. Like, I don't know. There was just some moments that were just like not quite perfect. So I'm gonna do 4.5 out of 5 though. Amazing movie. One of the most fun times I've had at the movie theater in a long time.
I loved the movie too. I'm gonna give it 4 stars. Giving it 4 solid, beautiful stars. I think that I'm giving it 4 stars because inherently it has this sort of prequelness, or it has this sort of like open-ended exploration of Mad Max world, which is really fun to go along the journey. I loved all the creativity and all the elements. I think this movie is completely and totally badass, but it is almost like a collection of amazing concepts and stories, and as a whole, it leaves a little tiny bit something to be desired. I like Fury Road more. I think Fury Road is incredible. All the things that everybody likes about Fury Road, I like about Fury Road. And Furiosa is certainly a gear shift. I appreciate the gear shift. I'm glad he didn't do Fury Road, 2. I love the energy, but I'm gonna give it the 4 stars, Brett. It's a 4-star
All right,
film.
so Joe, you have closed the gap significantly. Woo. We are now we each have had 2 movies reviewed off our fantasy teams. I'm at 16 points. You're at 14.5. All right, so now it's getting real tight. And I know we got Bike Raiders coming out pretty soon.
And we got Janet Planet coming up soon.
Pretty soon.
So we'll see you again, Movie Draft. We'll see you again.
We'll see where we stand.
Now, Brett, quickly shifting. There were the other film this week.
We thought we were going to do a short movies, baby, but we
just a regular
we had a
movies,
lot
baby.
to say about George Miller and Furiosa.
What do you think let's do Garfield movie.
All right,
Brett.
Garfield, really quick. Okay. The Garfield movie, let me tell you what happened at the Garfield movie. What happened is I had a fucking great time. That's
Wow.
what happened in the Garfield movie. I had a great time because here's why I had a great time. To use the oldest phrase in the book, I laughed and I cried. That's what I did. I did both. It's funnier than you think it's going to be. It hit its comedic beats really nicely. It didn't it edged into this, but it didn't, to me, it did not over rely on this like this new terrible, office Parks and Rec kind of humor that has just seeped into everything. It didn't over rely on like that just happened.
Okay.
Okay, it did not over. It had a lot of like classic comedy beats in it that
Yeah.
were really funny. It did. It simultaneously did Garfield. It did what you want from Garfield. He's eating lasagna, he's laying around, and he hates Mondays. And I'm like, I was like weirdly exhilarated by how much I liked the classic Garfield beats. I was reminded why those beats existed in the first place. I was like reminded. It was the kind of thing where I was like reminded of why cliches are cliches, kind of a thing. I was like just watching Garfield being like, fucking Monday, fuck Mondays. I just want to sit here and sleep in and eat lasagna. And I was like, yeah, Garfield, fuck Mondays. So I was really on board with the whole Garfield thing.
All right, you're pro Garfield.
But
okay.
then, of course, because I had somehow forgotten what year it was, because in my mind I was like, Garfield movie, okay, it's gonna be like the case of the missing lasagna. No, it's like a massive, like expansive adventure story involving Garfield and his estranged dad, and there's tons of like lore and hijinks and all this stuff. I was like, oh right, of course, movies in 2024. It's just gotta be so over the top. But I thought they like, as wild as the story was, I thought it kind of like hung on the whole time. The plane never sort of crashed. It always sort of kept it steady. There's some like weirdly striking, almost like David Lynchian moments in like when they're going to that burned out shopping mall where like the bad guys live. It was like there were some like weirdly like surreal gothic kind of like moments in the movie that were
There was
fun.
a lot of
fun.
A lot of tips of the old hat.
Yes.
To movies we love.
Yes, yeah. So and it was also, I will say, it hit me with some freaking gut punches. I cried in this movie. It was like, and I don't think it's just because I was having like a weird one. Like this movie hit some real hard emotional notes. And I mentioned this on the Movies Baby socials, but there's a famous, if you know the scene from that old movie Stella Dallas, which is a movie with Barbara Stanwyck that you'll see in like Oscar montages and stuff. There's a classic scene where Stella Dallas, who is this like, she's an independent woman in the 30s, which means she's just going to be miserable and her life is going to end in the gutter. So she's an independent woman, which means she like can't raise her kid, this and that, but she makes the decision to give her kid to like put her kid in like a better situation with another family, so that the kid can have a better life. And then she like at the very end of the movie comes back, and her daughter is getting married into like this rich family and this great situation that's going to set her up for the rest of her life. And Stella Dallas and the girl is like, oh, I wish my mother was here. And then all her new friends are like, maybe she didn't know you were getting married. And then they cut to the outside the wedding, and Stella Dallas, the mom, is outside the wedding looking through the rainy window, and she's just so happy that her daughter is happy now, even if she can't be with her. And it's so fucking melodramatic and sad. They do that in the Garfield movie. They do that scene beat for beat. They had to know. It has to be intentional.
It's the same thing.
Yes, it's so beat for beat with Garfield's estranged dad and this isn't like, this happens, kind of midway through the movie. But basically Garfield thinks he's been abandoned by his dad. And then that's when he finds John Arbuckle in the Italian restaurant, and then they like bond and he eats his pizza and blah, blah, blah. Later in the movie, you find out his dad was tirelessly trying to find him food throughout the city and kept getting like shooed away from alleys and things like that. Finally finds a sardine, brings it back to little Garfield. Garfield is missing. Oh no, where's my son? Oh my God, where's my son? And then he sees him through the window of the Italian restaurant with John Arbuckle. You're getting sad. Look, you're getting sad thinking about this. I recounted this scene to Amy in the car at like 10 a.m. She was like, stop talk. I can't, like, you're going to make me cry. I can't, like, Garfield's dad comes up to the window, sees little Garfield and John Arbuckle sharing a pizza. And he's like, this is better for him. I'm just going to let him go with John. I'm not. You're
Brett,
dying. You're dying. I'm telling you.
I cried.
Right? Gut wrenching.
Sat alone
Gut-wrenching.
in the movie theater at like 11 a.m. bawling.
Gut wrenching.
It like hurt my stomach. I was like, oh, like grabbing my stomach, like
Yes.
tears rolling down my eyes,
Gut-wrenching.
like trying not to cry because I look insane. But holy moly, that moment made me cry. Maybe it's because we have sons. Added a little extra spice to it.
Surely added,
but also like if you have a heart,
human,
you're dying.
Just a
You're
human.
gonna die.
Yes, and we're not. And they like double down and do like a second
sad.
Stella
Sad.
Dallas move later on, which I'm not going to give away. Like, but like they, oh my god, dude, the Garfield movie. I have not like cried that hard in a movie.
No,
for a
I know.
minute, for a
I know. I
minute.
really cried. All that to be said though, Brett, if I may,
Please.
you know, it's not that good. It's just for the record, like it's fine. Like the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm like, you know, I was like, this is fine, but like honestly, like I can't do another one of these for like 5 years until I can take Enzo, because watching this movie alone, call me a big old grump. I was just like, all right, like wow, here I am.
I liked it.
I didn't like. I mean,
I liked it.
I didn't like it. That being said.
What about when Garfield's catapulting back and forth across the train?
Right. It's okay. It's not. Look, like Brett said, it has some laughs. It has some cries.
They cracked Odie.
If you have a kid, they did crack Odie.
You didn't think they could crack Odie.
Great.
You thought Odie was just the dumbest fucking character ever. They cracked Odie.
Odie's awesome in this film. Not spoiler alert. Odie, he's the smart one. Pretty good. And but you know, ultimately at the end of the day, it's just a fucking another movie. It's fine. Mark Dindal, I believe, is the director. How you pronounce his name? He directed this movie. He made my favorite animated movie of all time. One of the greatest comedies ever. One of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. No, The Emperor's New Groove.
Wow.
The Emperor's New Groove is like the height of animated comedy. It's as funny as any movie can be. Every single bit is killer. Looks beautiful. It's one of my favorite movies. One time I saw Eartha Kitt stage door after a play, and I made her sign my Emperor's New Groove VHS. She loved it. Everyone else around me was so mad at me and thought I was a suck up and told me to shut the fuck up.
That's a fun story.
But anyway, I love that movie. Garfield movie, not that good.
It's
not
great.
that good compared to Emperor's New Groove. It's totally fine. If you're a child, I would check it out. If you're an adult,
or if you're an adult man.
If you're an adult man or woman, I don't know. If you like animated movies, then this might, or for children about Garfield, this might be for you.
Joe, what about that final fight scene where he uses like all the Italian food as his like weapons? Wasn't that fun? He's like throwing spaghetti at the.
No,
like,
you know what that scene made me think is like, I was like, oh my God, drones are ubiquitous now. Like children know what drones are.
This is why
part of our life.
This is why you did not have fun. Is I had the same thought and then I ignored that thought and focused on the fact that he was using spaghetti
I didn't dwell on
to
it.
fight the bad guys.
I was just like, wow, drones are like very much a thing that everyone knows
I did
about.
Think that too.
Whatever, not the Garfield movie's fault. That's just facts.
I did think that too.
I was just like, wow, it's
I
interesting.
wish they could have figured out another way to get the Italian food to him besides the delivery.
I'm not making a moral judgment on the film. I'm just saying, like, wow, we're really in a time when everybody on the
We
planet
are.
knows what drones are and what they do and how to use them. Like, that's crazy.
Here's the one bad part about the Garfield movie.
The one bad part about the Garfield movie.
The one bad part about the Garfield movie is that
it's good. It's fine. It's just a movie. What's the bad part?
Well, is the Chris Pratt of it all. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. I had the same thought when I watched Super Mario Brothers, because I was going into Super Mario Brothers being like, oh, they got fucking Chris Pratt to do Mario. Are you fucking kidding me? And then I watched it and I was like, okay, I get it. It is the ultimate. It's the safest thing you can do as a studio is to hire Chris Pratt to do your VO on your big, in your big IP cartoon animated project, because what Chris Pratt is going to deliver is a perfectly reasonable B-. He's not like clockwork. He's going to give you a B-. You don't have to get into a high risk, high reward situation where like you could get an A, but you might get a C. He is going to give you a perfectly lukewarm B-. He's going to do all your press. He's going to be middle America charming on all your talk shows. He's not going to he's going to say things that piss off people like us, but don't register at all to the majority of people who are going to end up going to the Garfield movie. He is the safest corporate safe, company man bet you can possibly make. That's why Chris Pratt keeps getting these gigs, is because he, like, all you have to do is go, oh, Chris Pratt's available, great, we can check that box and we don't have to think about it. We don't have to worry a second about what's about to happen. We're gonna get a B- VO, which is fine, and we're gonna get a perfectly, like, wide net accessible,
White.
white middle America person that can market this movie. So it is just a business decision. It's like the accountant cast the movie. It's like it is a business decision.
The insurance company.
And I hate it, because it means that we don't get what is like the tightrope thrill of movies, which is like movies that could go horribly wrong or wonderfully great. You don't, like, Chris Pratt is the death of that. That's the funnest part about going to a movie.
Risk.
Is it could swing wildly in either direction. Chris Pratt is like, I'm gonna lock this movie into a B- and it ain't going, and I'm gonna, like, strangle it there.
Last word.
In a way, he's the death of movies in that sense.
And literally $22 million Memorial Day weekend Garfield movie.
Yeah, I thought you were a big shot, Chris. What happened to Garfield movie?
Last thing on this, Chris Pratt played Super Mario Brothers. He didn't do Italian voice. Wrong. I speak for all Italians when I say, next time you do Mario, folks, make him as weirdly, stereotypically Italian as possible. I want Roberto Benigni playing Mario. I want big voice. I want the whole kit and caboodle. And Garfield,
I agree.
He's ushered into the family, in the La Familia, because he loves lasagna. I'm claiming him as Italian-American cat. Where was my Italian-American accent on Garfield? If I see one more whitewashing of Italian-American animated character, I'm going to lose my shit. That's all.
Did you see my video I posted this week about people who should have voiced Garfield?
Yes, very funny.
Who was your favorite out of that?
John Carroll Lynch. John Carroll Lynch should have been,
because
that was the one when
Garfield.
I was like, I stopped like laughing at the joke and started going,
and you're like, oh, that could work.
He could be that
could
kind
work.
of be perfect for Garfield.
I know, because I picked a line from Zodiac thinking it would be like, oh, the whatever will be funny, that it's not. But I was like, oh no, this actually works. This voice works.
I stopped laughing at that point and I started thinking.
Yes,
and that's how you know it's a good social
John Carroll
media
Lynch would have
asset.
been a phenomenal Garfield. The other two that I was the one that I knew would work well, and
Sebastian Maniscalco should have been Garfield.
Give me DeVito. Give me Danny DeVito.
Give me Danny DeVito as Garfield.
Give me Danny
that
DeVito.
counts.
Yes, I think Danny DeVito is also a safe bet, as safe as you can get, and would have been so much fun.
Great
would have
point.
been so much fun.
It would have made just the same amount of money.
So much fun. And Danny DeVito's doing Jersey Mike ads. He'll play along with whatever you want him to do.
Everybody likes Danny DeVito, Brett, just as much as Chris Pratt.
Danny DeVito should have been Garfield.
And Super Mario Brothers.
The one that I was really surprised at, that I thought would have been really incredible, was Patricia Clarkson. When I put Patricia Clarkson under Garfield, I was like, oh, this would be fun.
Sure.
This would be real fun. Check it out on our socials. I did 15 actors that should have been playing Garfield over Chris Pratt. I could have done 50. I could have done 100. Anybody in town should have played Garfield over Chris Pratt.
Man, oh man, Garfield totally fucking fine.
Chat
Nothing to write
saying
home
Martha
about.
Kelly. Martha Kelly
Sure,
would be
Martha
great.
Kelly, sure, anybody.
Fantastic.
Name anyone. Brett, that brings us to the conclusion of another exciting episode of Movies Baby with 5 Wise, folks. That's 5 Wise. Follow us on Patreon at patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Wise. Yes, folks. Of course, you can get your Movies Baby live streams. You can get full episodes, but we have Weekend at Bergman's, our other podcast, on there. And folks, we have tons of other fun stuff coming. Brett,
and if I may, really quick. All right. Speaking of After Death VHS, which is a show you can only get on Patreon, hosted by the VHS genius herself, Sarah Freilich. She is taking you through the gems of her collection. She is taking you through this incredible stories from the world of VHS collecting. It is amazing. If you're a movie lover, if you're a retro movie lover, this is your show. It is so much fun. We have a new episode of After Death VHS coming out next week. There's 2 episodes up on the Patreon now. Another one coming out next week, which has already been filmed. It is great. These things just keep getting better. She does not miss. Every recommendation is freaking solid. You will not have heard of any of the movies she talks about, and then as soon as you see
that's the way you want it.
And then as soon as you watch them, you will say, "How did I live my entire life without knowing about this movie?" After the VHS. In addition, as Joe said, we have some new stuff coming on the Patreon very soon, and we're gonna be teasing it on tonight's season finale of Weekend at Bergman's. We've been doing this 1999 series for 3 months now. Been going through all the best movies of 1999, the highs and the lows. Tonight we'll be picking the best movie of 1999. We'll be handing out some other awards. We're going to sum up the whole season in one big blowout episode. You're not going to want to miss it. If you're on the Patreon, you can.
I bought beer.
You bought
That's
beer.
how much fun we're gonna
you
have.
Bought beer.
Maybe we'll have.
We're
a beer.
gonna get lit. We might not be conscious.
Maybe
by the
we'll
end
have
of
a
this
beer,
episode.
but we're rewriting the history books, folks. Oscars, shove it. Brett and I will decide
We'll
who
tell
should
you.
be the
We'll
winners
tell you.
of
We'll
the
tell
1999.
you. And then on this episode tonight, we're going to be giving you some big announcements. We're going to repeat these announcements next week on Movies Baby, but if you want the fun announcements early, tune into Weekend at Bergman's tonight, or you can get on your podcast feed on Monday. But we're going to be doing some big announcements, and we're going to have a big, fun blowout episode. I can't wait.
Nor I. Please
can't
support the
wait.
show, folks, and please come check out Bergman's. And please check out next week. We'll be back with another episode of Movies Baby.
What's on next week's
guys,
show, Margo? I think I got
this
a
is gonna
graphic
be-
for next week.
How about that
look
Yabby
at
Dabby
this!
Doo?
Christmas
Yabby
morning,
Dabby Doo.
baby.
Finally.
An indie week.
I
Thank
cannot
God.
believe. I cannot
Thank
believe.
God.
This is what I'm talking about.
Thank God. What do we got, Joe? Show 'em.
We have Viggo Mortensen's directed and acted The Dead Don't Hurt. It's a Western with Vicky Krieps, the
Vicky
hot chick
Krieps,
from
baby.
fucking
Vicky
Phantom
Krieps.
Thread. Then we have Hitman. Richard Linklater's got a charming new little movie that's going to be so like tight and good. I know it. He's working with Powell again.
The Glenn Powell that we've been promised.
Oh, my favorite pal, the Linklater pal
Yes.
from what's that amazing movie?
the baseball players.
That amazing movie
Right,
where they're
you know
all
what
hot.
that-
I love
yeah,
that one.
yeah.
And then a movie I
What is
have
this?
been-
What is this,
This
Joe?
is my
What
movie,
is this, Joe?
folks. In a Violent Nature. It finally
This
comes
looks
out
so
this week.
scary.
This is going to be a
Looks
scary.
so scary.
I am predicting this is going to be. Well, I'm hoping this is going to be one
Best
of my
horror
favorite
movie-
horror
best
movies
horror
of the
movie
year.
maybe.
It's from the vantage point of the killer.
What do you have right now?
folks.
First Omen is your first?
First Omen's on top of the power rankings right now.
Okay. Still a long way to go, though.
Long way to go. So many horror
It's Joe's
movies.
horror power
So
rankings.
many horror movies come out this year, but I cannot wait for In a Violent Nature. Thank you, God, for those 3 beautiful movies next
All
week.
right. So that's next week. But for now, please hang around for 5 minutes because it's our big freaking blowout season finale episode of Weekend at Bergman's. It's going to be so much fun. I'm about to go squeeze into some absurd costume. We're going to get the beer and the limoncello flowing. We're going to have a lot of fun here. You get whatever you like at home going. It's going to be a blast. So come back in 10 minutes for Weekend at Bergman's on the Patreon, and we will see you there. Bye.